What started out as a WhatsApp group of friends spawned into a forum for debating and rating the films they saw. Then, one of them had an idea. Instead of typing their opinions, why not record them on a podcast? No Trailer Productions proudly presents Those Movie Review Guys. This podcast may contain spoilers.
You talking to me?
I will find you and I will kill you.
To infinity and beyond.
I am your father.
Bond. James Bond.
Here's Johnny.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And here we go.
Hello and welcome to the show. We are Those Movie Review Guys, four guys from London who love to watch, discuss and review movies. On every show, we'll look at a selection of titles, give our thoughts and feelings towards each one of them, and conclude the review with the coveted hashtag TMRG star rating. As always, I'm joined by the fabulous
Elliot,
Giles,
Amari.
This
Your thing isn't that good, Amari,
What
is
did
it?
I do now?
You didn't say your
You
name.
didn't say your name.
When you were supposed.
Oh, because Kyle's usually first, so he messed up my whole thing.
But he's presenting. Oh my! But I don't know if you. He's literally. Yeah. Leave that in. Leave that in. Leave that in. Leave it in. So they get yeah.
And you know what the worst thing about this is? Do you know what the worst thing about this is? Because I know Kyle was sitting there, beads of sweat dropping off his head, like thinking,
Oh yeah,
I
I can hear the
got
nervousness.
this right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he was doing so well.
He was doing so well. He was.
And then Amari just decided to.
I know.
Right, Amari's hosting next. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be like a podcast-a-thon. That's what it's going to be if Amari starts hosting.
Yeah, today's episode is a TMRG Hall of Fame show. Two of us will make a selection on a film that we believe should be entered into the TMRG Hall of Fame. The other three will vote whether it gets entered or not. Don't forget to subscribe at all major streaming platforms at Those Movie Review Guys on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts and YouTube. And don't forget to get in touch with us on our social media at TMRG Podcast. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. So,
Wait, before he goes any further, that was for the first time hosting. Little natural over here.
thank you. So, let's discuss the highlights from the past week. Let's start with you, Giles.
Highlight. Whoo. Listen, I'm on 6 weeks holidays, so every day is a highlight. This last week, in a week's time, I was due to go going Jamaica with my daughter, and as you know, nowhere's safe to really go, really. So we haven't gone anywhere. So what we've done instead is some of the money I've spent on the flights and everything else, I've just bought a load of tennis equipment, tennis clothing for her, because as you know, she's been playing tennis since the age of 4. We've enrolled her onto this summer tennis camp. So that's been going on, really. Got some video equipment that she can, like an action camera. Not quite rich enough for a GoPro just yet, but we'll get there eventually. And yeah, just been, messing around with that. Bit of analysis going on with her play, and yeah, trying to get her to get to new levels with that. She's got tough footsteps to follow in. We've already got one professional in the family, one sports professional. So she's going to be the next one.
Nice. We'll be on the lookout, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Eddie, what's your highlight from the week?
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I've got one highlight. I think my highlight has just been getting back into shape, working out, training. As you're aware, obviously, I've been going in like every day. Again, where the weather's nice and I don't know about, I know Giles is, but I'm not really trying to get back to a gym anytime soon.
Nope. Neither
So
am I.
it's back to basics. You know them ones where, when you see all them like flipping Rocky films and, they get a bit far in the world and then they're training in these nice plush places, they lose a fight and then it's back to the shed, back to the garage, back to the gritty. So we've got, I'm outside got the dumbbells going, couple irons, doing some clean and jerk, couple skipping mats. So no, I've just been really enjoying it. I think everybody's been affected with this lockdown. I don't think there's anyone who's not put on a few extra pounds during it. So just getting back into that sort of routine. But now I'm feeling a lot better. I lost 5 pounds in 2 weeks. So I'm just continuing to use that as motivation, push myself every day, work up a sweat. Because the reality is one of two things is going to happen. One will be in lockdown again in a few weeks. And number two, the rain's coming after this sun. So British weather, baby. But yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's all good. So yeah, just been really getting on with that. What about yourself, Carl? What's your highlight?
Do you know, it's been a quiet week. I would say the only, highlight was just going to the farm with the kids. Managed to get out. I thought, I can't stay in the house forever. So taking the kids to the farm. Titan was feeding the goat. Normally he's scared to do these kind of things.
Feeding the goat?
Yeah.
Feeding the goat. You eat them. You don't feed them, you eat them.
Yeah, but he was feeding it before Carl made him slit his throat. That's what was. Which farm did you go to?
There was a farm up my way. It's called Kent Life. It's called.
Okay.
Yeah, Kent
Never
Life
heard of
Farm. It's good. It's good. It's got it's closed down.
It's got animals. It's got animals.
It's got more than animals. They got a big playground. They got a little tractor racing course. It's good. It's good there, but because of COVID, they closed a lot of the things, innit? They had a soft play inside there as well. But that was definitely the highlight, man. Amari, what are you saying?
I don't actually remember how. You know what? Since lockdown started, all the weeks.
Maury, you've had all week. Hang on, he's had all week to remember a highlight.
Exactly.
As well as listening to our highlights, and he still hasn't got one.
But you know how it gets sometimes, innit?
Some of the highlights I cannot say for legal.
Keep it clean, lad. Keep it clean.
Get myself in trouble reasons.
Yeah, so, incriminating purposes.
But you know the joke with that. You know the joke, because normally I would say, Giles is the one who's got the evidence, but it's always slightly Amari, Like, I would, at this point, I think it's safe to say Giles lives more of a Christian life than Amari.
Hey, listen, I heard about
I don't know about
So
I don't know about that.
You can live a Christian life, so it's okay. I will live.
Listen.
Let me think. So last week, what did I do last week? I worked. Then I got to the weekend. Oh, you know what the highlight was? Let me put some. So
Here
I went
we go.
to.
Come on,
go on.
No. It was just going to a nice family event. In the park, listening to music, having some nice watered beverages. Just seeing people smile.
Watered beverages.
It was a wonderful feeling.
I'm not gonna. Don't ask.
So, what don't you understand? Water beverages.
So, he said.
He said.
What's watered?
Water beverages.
Yeah, I know.
You might as well have just said you got pissed, because that's what you're trying to avoid.
No. I haven't been pissed since my birthday, so it's okay. Don't worry.
Do you know what? That's actually quite big.
Are you slightly calling? Are you slightly calling him a pisshead?
That's what it sounds like.
Slightly.
Like I don't know. Listen, we know Amari's a pisshead because when he gets pissed up, he types a load of gibberish in the fucking group. And then if you go into his Instagram story, he just it's mad. It's just mad. It's just fucking mad. So yeah,
what it is,
we already know. We already know he's a pisshead.
No. You don't understand how my creative juices works. I explained something to you.
Shall we go back and look over some of the messages?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, get him up.
Do you know how to find them? If you go into WhatsApp and click search and just do that on the keyboard, it'll just come up.
Yeah. You have 50 matches.
So, film number one we're going to get into is Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow is released on May the 28th, 2014, directed by Doug Liman, starring Tom Cruise as Major William Cage, Emily Blunt as Sergeant Rita Fataski, Bill Paxton as Major Sergeant Farrell, and Brendan Gleeson as General Brigham. A soldier fighting aliens gets to relive the same day over and over again, the day restarting every time he dies.
So, Carl, just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your entry into the Hall of Fame, yeah?
Yes, this is my entry.
And I know you've been burning. I know you've been burning to have this conversation. So it's only right that you plead your case as to why you think it should go in the TMRG Hall of Fame first.
Now, this film caught me off guard. I watched it because it's Tom Cruise. I like what he does, but he'd gone on a run of a couple of the shit films he had.
In fact, before we go any further,
say it as it is, Amari. Say it as it is.
We shall not discuss the film that's the dot. You want me to
Amari,
discuss the dot?
We spoke about this, and I sent you the number for counselling.
Disgraceful. Like, you know when you're like, a film should go to court. No, this doesn't deserve court. It deserves to be deleted from history. That's what it needs to happen. No one should learn from it.
But we're not doing court here. We're talking about Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but we're talking about the bad run of films.
And the joke is, before we even go on to you continue what you were saying, what you said was after run of shit films. Yeah. And then as soon as Amari heard shit films, he lost it. He lost it. But the joke is, for someone to go on a run of shit films and then make this, the shit films would have had to become before this, not 3 years after this. So Amari totally didn't listen to anything you said.
Yeah.
Because the shit film that we're talking about was made in 2017.
Exactly.
This film was made in 2014.
It could have been made in 2050. It's still shit.
That's twice in about 5 minutes, Amari.
I know. And let's not forget that the fact that he didn't even realise it was his turn to say his own name. Like, let's not look at. But anyway, go on, Carl. Sorry.
It's hot today, isn't it? It's that heat.
Yeah.
Warm, hot. It's there, isn't it?
It's gonna be a long night.
It really is, Amari, man.
It's gonna be a long pot. I can feel it now.
No, but I watched it. I watched it in the cinema, and I was just like, "Wow, this film blew me away." I was like, "This is the best action film I've seen in a while." Went back to watch it again. Watched it 4 times in the cinema. Literally, I was that hyped about this film. I just loved everything about it. I loved the concept. This is what film made me start respecting Emily Blunt as well, because I didn't really rate her as an actress, but the Full Metal Bitch. Yep. Good to go.
Let me ask you a question, Carl. What exactly is it, or say was it, about this film that blew your mind?
I think I love the concept of the day starting over again. It's almost like a video game where you can't complete that level. You go back, you try again, you go back, try again. And again, because it was Tom Cruise, we're normally used to seeing him being the best, overcoming all the odds. So the fact he kept dying was brilliant, and I thought the comedy there was brilliant as well, and the action scenes brilliant. Loved it.
I will definitely agree with you on the comedy. I think one of the things that I enjoyed thoroughly about this film is the way that Tom Cruise doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah,
it was refreshing because, again, normally it's all about him. He has to be the guy to do everything himself and come out on top. But this, where, like you say, he was in a way a little bit of a loser.
Yeah.
And having the sort of female as the top dog, as it were, and him having to kind of work off of her lead, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Giles, you're pulling her face.
No, do you know what? I remember watching this at the time. I didn't watch it 4 times in the cinema. I did watch it once in the cinema. And I enjoyed it. I watched this on a rewatch with my daughter. And it was quite funny because I watched the other film with her as well. And it was interesting to kind of get her take on it as well, because she followed it to the T. So she even I thought and we watched both films back to back. And which is a lot for an 11-year-old to do. What I did like, again, I'd have to echo what Carl said. It was very much like a video game in the sense that it was like, okay, you go through this bit, then you can't complete that bit, but you get a chance to redo it. And actually, let's try something different the next time round. And I think the way, and literally that can become repetitive, but the way how they filmed it, where they only kind of, I like the way how they shot it in terms of they only focused on the bits that needed to remind you that it was that going again. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I thought that was very, and even though that is the majority of the film, that, if you think about that, that's the bulk of the film, repeating that day. And then even, I thought it was really clever even in their dialogue, the part where I think when they make it to the house, and he says, "Don't go outside." Yeah, because if you go outside, I've been through this scenario all these times, and she's like, he goes, "If you do that, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen." Yeah, and it's so already even so, and it, obviously I don't know the runtime of the film, but like it's very hard to kind of do the same thing over and over and keep it fresh. And one of the things that I did like about this was the fact that they kept it fresh, kept it moving, as it were, even though it's what was the slogan? Live, die, repeat.
Yeah.
And so I think I was very impressed with that.
Amari, what was your take?
On rewatch, I didn't enjoy the film as much.
What?
You heard what I said.
Please
I'm
explain.
not saying it's not a great film, but in terms of he's so upset as well. I couldn't see it. I don't even You don't even want you to hear it.
This one is a personal one for Carl. Yeah, this one is a personal one for Carl.
It's more literally because I was kind of like, I don't know. I was just like, I thought, you know what? The video game thing is in a net. Because when I watch, it's like when I used to play Championship Manager when I was a kid, and I was trying to win the league, and we got to the last game of the season, and I'm like, restart, and I'm kind of like, how many versions do you need to make one thing to happen?
As many as it takes.
And each version had its own element, as Giles was saying.
Yeah, but for me, I just like, okay. After like 4 or 5 attempts, I was like, okay, next.
Was there no intrigue for you though? Was there no intrigue of like where? Because for me, I thought
No, I'm not saying the film itself is not a great film, but I'm just saying on a rewatch, it was going to be in my mind. This was Emily Blunt's 3rd best film, and this was Tom Cruise's in his top 5. Going the fact that Tom Cruise has a lot of films, something in his top 5 has to be of substantial weight. That was before I watched it. But when I watched it again, I was just like, it doesn't give me that same... I don't have that same energy after watching it the first time. Because I remember I never watched this film. I actually missed it. And then I think we was doing a pod last year. And we was either talking on air or off air. And Kyle was talking about it. I was like, all right, cool, let me watch it. Boom. It was great. I would have gave it 5 stars. On that day I watched it, I was ready for it. But then I watched it again, I was like,
so is it fair to say?
Interesting.
Is it fair to say? Because again, and I want you lot to remember this part of the conversation, because when we get into the next film, I'm going to ask the same question, Mike, because I'll be interested to see what you say for that. But is it fair to say that because of the plot and the whole restarting, and you see certain films, once you've seen it once, it's like you can't really watch it again because
it's a one-time watch film. It's a one-time watch film.
I hear what you're saying.
Nah, I disagree.
For the simple reason is that I've seen it, and I never seen it done like this before. And if I ever see something like there was Groundhog Day and whatever, but in terms of action and stuff and sci-fi, boom, 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 ticks every boxes. But to watch it again, I'm like, I've seen it. Give me something different. This is so in essence. This is why I'm scared of Quiet Place 2. Just so we know.
But the thing is, you could say that about any action film.
this is true, but I feel like because of the nature of this film, I feel like I'm watching a sequel, even though it's not a sequel. I'm tired of watching the same thing.
But it wasn't the same thing. That was my thing. It wasn't the same thing. As Giles said, it was showing different elements of the same day. So like the bit when he tries to roll underneath the car and he gets hit by the car, they don't they don't then go and show that again. They show the next phase once he's past that phase.
Yeah.
So they're showing all the different phases.
They kept it moving.
Yeah, they didn't show
moving.
the same scene.
There's the
over
bit
again.
where the guy when he first lands on the beach.
Yeah.
And then the guy, and he's like, oh, I can't even be bothered. I'm not even going to bother moving. I'm not even going to bother warn him or push him out the way because it's just like he's realised that's not important to actually the day.
Exactly. That anyway.
It's a part of the day, and yes, I can. And again, that kind of lends into the whole comedy thing of it, and him not taking himself so serious. Because, like, yes, I could save his life, but he's going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's been things where I've saved his life and he's died that way.
Exactly.
There's bits where I know that's going to happen, so I've saved his life again. He dies another way. So actually, that's not part of the mission. Like, that's not advancing the day any more than it can be advanced. So let me just cut the batty, literally, and just get to the point.
Yeah.
And just to add on to Kyle's point, and I think kind of what you're saying in rebuttal to Amari, for me, the sort of premise, because this is, I think, the second or third time I've watched it, and obviously knowing what's going to happen, knowing the plot of the film, it doesn't have the same impact. However, what makes it so good is the cinematography, the way that the action was filmed, from the shots of when he first drops out of the plane to the actual aliens, like. And this is what annoys me about Hollywood, because you're going, when was this film released? 2010, did you say? 2014. So that's 6 years. But we're watching films last year that CGI was worse than 6 years ago. And it's stuff like that, which I just think, if you could be doing it from, and there's another conversation to be had, because I watched Twister the other day and I was still blown away at the visual effects of that. So, but I just think the way that it was filmed, the action, the CGI, it's great. It keeps you in the film. It keeps you sort of energized and entertained. So even though you know the premise of the film, he's going to keep restarting. The way that it was actually filmed, for me, was one of the best things about this that I believe can enable you to keep going back to it. Carl, another point I wanted to make. Did you get vibes of Starship Troopers on this?
Not really.
I hear what you're saying. I can see what you're saying about this.
I can see
what you're saying about this.
But it was a different kind of humor to Starship Troopers, I would say. Starship Troopers was kind of mocking everything, I would say, whereas this wasn't really mocking things. But I get kind of what you're saying.
In terms of like how these army guys are mad. They are mad. Yeah. From that first general, what's the line he keeps saying? Wake up, maggot!
On your feet, maggot.
That's what I'm saying. To is it Bill Paxton?
Yeah,
Bill Paxton's guy. Yeah. To my favorite who gets the bomb. You'll have to remind me of his name, but it's my guy from Gangs of New York, the Irish brother.
Oh,
Brendan Gleeson.
Yes.
Yeah, he was giving me jokes from the minute when Tom Cruise is trying to weasel his way out of the mission, and he saes, "Okay, that's not a problem. That's not a problem." The minute he leaves the room, arrest this man. Nah, the comedy was on point for me. The comedy was on point. Even the over-the-top seriousness of Emily Blunt, like even the way she was on some next, it worked for me.
Even when the guy. One of the guys on the squad tried to fight him, and he just moving his head left, right. Imagine if you tried to fight someone. He's not even looking. It's just moving.
I definitely got the humour of this. I thought it was very cohesive.
Too much.
What would you say was your favourite part of the film, Carl? Or what was it about the film that made you think, this is outstanding? Was it a certain scene, or was it a certain
there wasn't
theme or
the
film?
thing is it was all rounds that I was already into the action, I was into the comedy, but then I think where it took it to another level was when, again, like Charles was saying, the scene in the barn where they're talking about, do you know what it's like to see someone die every day? Like they added the emotional impact on top. That's what I was like, wow, this has actually got everything for me now. There's not one element that it doesn't that it misses. There's not one element at all. So I was just like, yep, that's just taking it over the top. So there is obviously scenes that when he's really got going and he jumps on the beach and then he runs around shooting them, I was just like, sick. But yeah, it was just, that was the final big piece. That was like, nah, it's perfect.
It's funny because I'm just looking at who's the guy that directed it?
Doug Liman.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his some of the films he's done.
He's done Born,
as well. Yeah, but he also done in 2008. He done Jumper, which
I didn't watch it.
I wasn't a big fan of Jumper.
No, neither was I. Neither was I. But it's the whole kind of, it's another science fiction-y film that he probably tried his hand at and didn't quite pull it off. So obviously he's kind of, for me, I think he's learned, he's matured in his filmmaking. 6 years later, and he's come with this, which for me was outstanding.
And can I just say on that point, in fact, I've got to drop a bomb. The end you actually deep the plot and the sort of explanation of the aliens, the whole Alpha Omega, the reason that I believe it's an Omega that gets killed and spills the blood on Tom Cruise, which enables him to try. Like, when you get these mad concepts, but then you're listening to it and you're thinking that actually makes sense, like in a fantastical way. Yeah. They didn't really leave much space for too many questions to be answered. And obviously, as you start to see the evolution of them, like where they're trying to kill him, but then they're trying to do it in a way that I thought it was very, very well done.
Yeah, and it was funny because they still didn't even know what they were fighting. That's what they said. They don't even know what they're fighting, which could be similar to certain wars that happen in real life.
Well, there you go. And speaking of real life, I'd also love the way that from the way that the film starts and you're seeing these real publications. BBC, I think, was on there, CNN, and it normally, when you see them and it's some fake thing, but seeing the actual real,
it gives it more credence.
Yeah. Seeing him land in Trafalgar Square and then go like, I loved all of that. I'd love to know how much it cost to film that, but that's another.
That's a lot.
Well, I mean,
of
their budget was about 180 mil.
Oh, was it?
Surprisingly, it didn't do that great.
Nah, it didn't. It didn't. I remember reading articles about that because.
But I think it's fair to say, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of Mission Impossible, it's like people don't really care that much about Tom Cruise anymore. I feel like he's kind of, he's peaked.
At this point, he wasn't the same guy as he, because I said he released Oblivion, I think, came out before this, which was horrible.
Yeah. You said what? Take that back right now. Take it back.
You enjoyed Oblivion?
Take it back. I enjoyed the premise. I enjoyed the execution. Some people thought it was slow. You are slow and dim-witted if you thought that.
Oblivion was okay.
Give me a quick rundown of this film because I didn't see it.
I wouldn't say it's a great film. It's okay.
No, I believe it was. Listen, the concept that I can't tell the concept because people need to watch it, but that whole idea, and then I saw boss man storyteller come with his cigar. Boom. I was like, yeah, all right. I'm so involved. Give me more. Then I got more, and the joke is, I feel like. My girl was see, you got the same kind of character again. Anyway, his sci-fi films have energy. That's all I'm gonna say. Energy.
Okay, but
that's one way of putting it. That's one way.
He was on a run of bad films. As I think you had.
Here's a question
Jack
for you,
Reacher. That was dead.
Well, Jack Reacher 1 was a good film. It was Jack Reacher 2 now.
Jack Reacher 2 was completely dead. Oh my god! And the joke is Jack Reacher 2 is called Never Go Back, and someone should have fucking told him that. I don't know why he went back to the fucking character. It's actually awful.
Yeah,
it is. Oh my god! Jack Reacher had some substance to it. I'm just going to ask you. I enjoyed it as well. I'm just going to ask you, Cole. when you say his run of bad films, what period? Where do you think for you? Where did it start? And where did it?
All right,
let me
pull it up.
Where did it start?
Let me pull it up.
I've got it. I've got it. So I'm gonna go back.
Right.
So Collateral. We'll start from Collateral because that was. So that's 10 years. That's a 10-year. That's a decade.
So
yeah?
I'll give. I love Collateral. And that's 5 stars.
Come on,
right?
World of the World's 5 stars.
What?
Never seen. I never saw
that's
it.
5 stars. Yeah, that's 5
for me.
That's Spielberg. I don't ever disrespect Spielberg and Tom Cruise. Yeah. Anyway,
War of the Worlds is piss poor.
What? Oh no.
Yes.
I've never said that ever in my life about any Spielberg film. But I'll tell you where it started. So, I like Tropic Thunder, but then it's after that. So you had Valkyrie, wasn't really feeling that. Night and Day wasn't feeling that.
I actually watched Valkyrie 2 days ago.
That. I need to. That's when he it's the premise of killing Hitler, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not. I guess Tom Cruise is levels to me. He's a top 5 guy for me. So these films are just okay. So when I say a run of, I guess it's not shit, but mediocre. I would say.
Yeah.
Night and Day, Dead.
Bit like War of the Worlds.
Nah, I enjoyed War of the Worlds.
I like Night and Day. Night and Day is an ITV2 film. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Dead.
Channel 5.
Dead.
Netflix. Dare I say it? Netflix.
Night and Day.
Listen. I'm actually moving more and more towards team Netflix films are shit. I'm just putting it out
there. There's quite a good few.
Give us that money. We'll produce better films.
Mission Impossible, obviously, that's his bread and butter. Then he had Rock of Ages.
But that number 3 wasn't that great.
Oh, I love all of them.
Number 3 was disgraceful.
Number 4.
Number 3 was disgraceful.
Number 3
is probably my favourite one. With Philip Seymour Hoffman.
You ain't seen the...
Oh,
no.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
No,
I'm not having that.
No, number 2 was bad. Number 3 was...
That might be
the best one was the last one.
That might be my
The best one was the last one.
Hey, the last 2 have been... I will go cinema. I see it on TV. I actually watch
all of them are like
on
that.
TV because I want to watch it.
No, they're not, Carl.
That's
no.
how lit
What's it
What
on
did he
now? Is
say?
it 5? They're on 5 now.
No, 7.
No.
Yeah, 7.
6.
Yeah,
They just finished 6. They're on 7.
The next one will be
Nation
7.
Fallout.
Yeah, next one will be 7. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
So Rock of Ages, Dead.
Because they're recording
Dead,
7 and
Oblivion,
8
Dead.
together or some wild behavior. I don't know.
Yeah.
What it was. Pandemic might have said no, so I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Fallout for me is the best one.
It's hard to say. I'll need to watch them all back to back.
All I know is that man did that whole scene with the helicopter without stunt. He did it himself. I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, that's Tom Cruise,
and to be fair,
Tom Cruise.
again, that's like, anyway, that's ratings. The fact that he's still at his age or for the last 10, 15 years has always been doing his own things is incredible.
No, but
putting a lot of people to shame.
He's coming from the days of Cocktail, where all he did was have cheesy one-liners and have a smile and look tall on camera to what he's doing now.
That's true.
It's mad.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's a top 5 guy, and he's a top 5.
Yeah, he is. No, facts. Yeah, facts.
When he used those proper act, not even action films. Like Rain Man, A Few Good Men, Interview the Vamp. Nah, he's levels. So it's time to see whether or not the first induction into the TMRG Hall of Fame will be Edge of Tomorrow. Giles, what is your vote?
Should it go into the Hall of Fame? I would say yes.
Yes.
I would say yes. Reasons being, again, I would agree with Amari in terms of, and I've said this before when we did the Friday review, and it's very hard to rewatch a film that you haven't chosen to rewatch. I think at some point we're all gonna come up against that sort of barrier. And with an action film, when you know where the action's going to take place, you know what's going to happen, it is quite hard to keep that fresh. That being said, in the 6 years since I've watched this, I was still entertained. I was still thoroughly entertained the whole way through. Like I said earlier, they did well to keep it fresh all the way through. I thought the CGI with the aliens was good. I love the fact that you could describe the aliens as the color being obsidian, which is that's a word. That's what
in words
what
there,
a,
boy.
Listen, what a word! And the reason why that obsidian word has come to my attention. If you're a Call of Duty player, then you know all about obsidian camo. That's fucking hard to get. You got to play a lot of Call of Duty, and I play a lot of and I still haven't even got my first obsidian. But yeah, it was just all well put together. I like the fact that you had Emily Blunt as this, which you don't see too often. Like, she was the action hero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't. Even though he was the star, he wasn't the action hero. You know, she had to teach him. And yeah, I just thought it was a fresh take on the action hero genre, which you don't see that often. You know, it steps outside the norm and, you know, gives another narrative. What I will say though, even though I'm going to put this in the Hall of Fame, I don't think that this is Tom Cruise's best science fiction film.
No, wait. Come on, listen. Well,
Science
I'm just
fiction.
throwing this out there from now. Minority Report.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, of course.
That's an easy
him and
conversation.
Spielberg, yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's
no. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That's arguably a top
my
20 film ever made. Really. So,
but yeah. So yes, it gets in for me.
Okay, Amari, what is your vote?
It was in the Hall of Fame, no doubt, before rewatch. But after rewatch, it's a conversation in my head. That's the problem. I don't want to have the conversation. I should just know. Bang, bang.
Don't listen to the voices, Amari. Don't listen to the voices.
My problem is, right, the way I see it is that I should know.
Which problem are we talking about?
Talking about the film problem, you idiot.
Hey, this is important, you know. This is important.
I know. I can see Carl sweating. Look at him. Man, he's sweating. Carl is listeners. So how we've got this set up is we're recording via our online app, but we're in a WhatsApp call, so we can see each other, and Carl is looking the most nervous I've ever seen him.
You know that Key and Peele gif where he's just sweating bears.
Yeah. Carl is taking sips of his drink in between taking sips. It's absolutely hilarious. Yes, Amari, sorry, we interrupted you. My bad.
No, it's okay. If I base it on the fact that he is top 10 of all time, and then I base it also on the fact that this film, without the rewatch, was in top 5 and then falls into the top 10 because of the rewatch, I can just about give the tolerance to put it in the Hall of Fame.
Ooh.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. You thought wisely.
But no. But you see the caveats I have to base it upon. There you go.
There's no caveats.
An
Just so
entry,
you know, it
5-star
will
film.
be.
Wait, is it a 5-star film?
Well,
it
this
was
is the
4 for
problem
me,
with
but
the
I'll get into
rewatch.
that in a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a 5-star before that.
I wouldn't say this was a
Now
classic.
it's just
I wouldn't
like-
say this was a classic.
All right, so Elliot, what is your vote?
Well, after watching this, because obviously this is the first Hall of Fame show, and I was thinking to myself, there has to be a margin that a film has to be to gain entry. I think it's fair to say that most 5 and 4-star films will go into Hall of Fame for them just being great all-round films. There may be submissions that may not be 4 stars, 5 stars, but a film doesn't have to be a 4 or 5 film to be in the Hall of Fame because it could be a personal reason. I thought this was a great film. As I just said, for me, it was 4 stars. It's not a classic. And again, in about 5 minutes, we're going to get into a conversation about what classic is. But for me, the only thing that was lacking, I guess, is I don't know. At times, I did feel like this, as good as this is, and I felt myself asking the question that we spoke about earlier on. Would you rewatch a film like this where it's kind of linear? Because most action films are pretty, they're linear. There's not really many twists and turns and story development. Some there is, but most of the time it's, start and finish with the middle sort of minute might be a turn there. And I found myself saying, I don't feel it how you feel it, Carl. It was a great film. I loved the plot. The cinematography, as always, from the start, was great. The humor, like Giles mentioned, Emily Blunt playing the sort of heroine, as it were, and Tom Cruise taking a bit of a backseat and coming across. I think I even said the weaseling of Tom Cruise. I liked him playing that role. It was like he was saying, look, let me not take all the, the spotlight. But for me, there wasn't enough overall for me to say, yeah, I could watch this film on a regular basis, like a couple times a year. But the film's great. It was a very good selection. It was a pleasure to rewatch it as well. So yeah, for me, this is definitely in the Hall of Fame.
Excellent. So that means that Edge of Tomorrow is our first entry into the TMRG Hall of Fame. So, film number 2 we're going to be talking about is Inception. Inception was released on the 8th of July 2010, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Dom Cobb, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Arthur, Ellen Page as Ariande, Tom Hardy as Eames. A thief who steals corporate secrets through the use of dream-sharing technology is given the inverse task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO.
So, this was my selection. Carl, can you do me a favor and just read that synopsis again, please?
A thief who steals corporate secrets through the use of dream-sharing technology is given the inverse task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO.
Well, we know where Elliot.
That synopsis, Carl. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a film with that kind of plot, theme, anything like that?
Of course not, but it's Christopher Nolan, so it's not surprising.
Giles, Amari, I throw the same question to you both.
No.
Let me take you back to, when was the film released? 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Ghana at the time. And they built, it's old now obviously, but at the time they just opened this place called the Accra Mall. And it was quite a big deal. Like if you go there, you wouldn't even think you was in Ghana for 5. Like it's mad, but that's another situation. Anyway, they put a cinema upstairs, Silverbird, I think it's called. And when I tell you, like, the cinema is fresh, and obviously because of the transfer in money, it cost like £2 to watch a film. So you know me, I was loving life. But anyway, Inception was out, yeah? Again, note to the listeners, this is why you should never, ever, 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 ever watch trailers, because you just might take away that feeling that is offered to you when you go to cinema to watch a film, that feeling of being blown away and just not believing what you're seeing and completely immersed. I watched this film. Carl, how many times did you say you watched Edge of Tomorrow?
4.
Whilst in Ghana, I watched it 6 times.
6
times.
Mad.
Ask my brother.
Mad.
This film, yeah, it was a bit of an easy choice, and I wanted to do it deliberately.
It was an easy choice.
Just because I wanted to go back and watch it. I would probably say this is one of the best films I've ever seen, if not top 3. And furthermore, watching it again now, 10 years later, hasn't aged a day. Has not aged a day. I'm throwing this out to you boys.
I'm trying. I don't think it'll be top 3 for me, but that probably changes every year, to be fair. But yeah, it definitely hasn't aged.
It does change.
It definitely hasn't aged. I definitely agree with that.
What a journey! What a route! It's one of them, like you said, Carl. You've done a lot of research. I don't know about you, Amari. I don't know about you, Giles, but I don't even know where to start. It's one of them ones. I think prior to watching Inception, the only film that kind of took me on that kind of journey was The Matrix. And again, that's relative to the time I saw it. But this, Nolan's best piece of work.
I've got a soft spot for
DiCaprio
Memento.
or Nolan?
I've got a soft spot for Memento as well.
Nolan. And again, I think part of my reason for choosing this is the whole Tenet debacle as well. So I thought, because I've noticed a few cinemas were showing Inception, showing a few more of Nolan's pieces. But for me, it's very close between this and Dark Knight. It's very, very close.
It is hard to say because he's got too many top 30 films.
I think Dark Knight's more important, but that's a personal opinion. Simply because of the character,
because of Heath Ledger,
Dark Knight, and their different arcs. Not even Heath Ledger. Mr. Harvey Two-Face's arc was was the most important character arc in that film as a person or a human being, and understanding how they get into that situation where they are like the way they are. That is more important to me than Inception. Because in my mind, I don't know if Inception is real or not. Whereas you can see people in the Harvey Two-Face situation and how they've changed and their perception upon the world has changed. So for me, until someone could tell me, oh, Inception is real, I can't say it's not real. But I can say some people's personalities and behaviors change. That's why I will put Dark Knight ahead of this film. Not for any other reason.
Because it's more realistic. No,
the imagination.
Kick yourself off of your chair backwards and find out.
Oh, but you could do that in water. But you can also do that in another place. And another. I have small issues with the film, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Go on.
Interesting.
When this came out, for a few minutes, I was thinking, could this be real? I did think to myself, this is a madness. Like,
and then you got home, you saw your bills for the water, you saw your bills for electricity, you saw your poll tax, and very quickly.
What century are you in, by the way? Man said,
do you know why I said that? Because I heard someone say that the other day, and I laughed my head off.
Poll tax.
You might as well have followed that up with you realise you was on a YTS scheme as well.
But Giles and Amara, you seem to have agreed there on some niggly bits, and I'd like to get into those because for me, this film is the perfect film. There's nothing I can say.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. Do you know what? I remember watching this. When it came out. Again, saw it in the cinema. I believe I might even have watched it twice in the cinema because I did thoroughly enjoy it. It's one of these films, and it kind of echoing what Amari said, and what we kind of touched upon talking about the last film.
Yeah.
Some films are quite hard to rewatch and still get the same level of excitement. And surprisingly, on the rewatch of this, I didn't get the same levels of excitement. Now, like I said, I've watched both of these films back to back with my daughter. Now, that obviously this was the first time she's watched this, and she had the same level of excitement that I had when I first watched it, but I didn't. In actual fact, there were parts and portions of it, as stylish as this is, and I know it's a very stylish film. It's shot so well. There are little bits of the storyline that don't make sense, but that's, forget that, because that's most films. In fact, that's all films. There's bits, there's plot holes. Some are major, some are minor. But there were parts of the film where I found myself just switching off. And I don't know whether that was because of the fact that I knew what was going to happen. I know what the outcome is. So I'm still kind of thinking to myself, should that take away from the quality of the film, because again, I'm not saying the film isn't quality. I just didn't enjoy it, and it's a long fucking film. I didn't enjoy it the third time round watching it. But it is a 10-year it's a 10-year gap, a full 10-year gap since so I've never actually gone back and watched this.
That's interesting.
After seeing it in cinema, even though I knew I really, really enjoyed it. Now, I don't know whether that's to say, I haven't given it enough thought to say, well, are there other films? Because I know there's other films that I'll rewatch religiously. For example,
and just very quickly, Ed, as perfect timing, give me 3 films that you'll go back to and watch, regardless of the year, regardless of your.
The funny thing is, I couldn't sleep the other day, and I had one of the American film channels on, and they had Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 on, and it doesn't matter if Back to the Future. It doesn't matter where the damn film is. I'll sit there and watch it, and it was like, oh my god, they put Back to the Future 2 on. Now, obviously, even though Back to the Future it's one of my favorite ever films.
And we will be getting into that on the franchise episode. We definitely will be getting into
absolutely, because there's so much stuff in and around that whole franchise, which is absolutely amazing. But it's one of those films that I will always watch it, no matter if it's on TV or if I actually go out my way to watch it or whatever. Funny enough, I know we spoke about me saying. Well, I spoke about me saying that. What was the film we just did? Edge of Tomorrow wasn't Tom Cruise's best science fiction. Well, this isn't my favorite, and I've only just realized this looking at Nolan's filmography. I prefer Prestige. I've watched bare times, and again, I watched that in the cinema.
As well, mysterious film.
It's like it's that film is sick, and maybe it's because it's got real life characters in it. I don't know, but for me, and maybe because the storyline is twisty turny, but it's not so apparent that it's twisty turny. There's like a big reveal at the end, whereas
it's a bit more traditional.
Yeah, whereas with Inception, you know what they're trying to do because they tell you what they're trying to do. It's about the execution of what they're trying to do.
But this is exactly what I'm saying about Inception, like the layers, bruv. Like just when you think you know where the story's going and that storyline's still going on, then there's another entity that's peeled in, and then there's another entity from like the second layer of the dream, and then you have the ongoing conflict between Molly and Leonardo DiCaprio. And so I get what you're saying, but there's just so much going on. But because of the theme of the film, it's done on so many different levels that it's like if you're not smart or you're not keeping tabs on everything, you're going to miss out some of that excitement. But for me, I've never seen anything like this where there was just so much going on, but it was done in a way that everything made sense.
I'm going to get into some of the issues. Mari, go on, say what your initial thoughts first, and then I want to get into some of my they're small niggles, but they're niggles nonetheless.
Agreed. But okay, so you're talking about the kick chair issue. I was kind of like, I've seen people get in the film kick chair, kick water, but you flipped around in the van, but you don't wake up. I was like, that don't make no sense to me. And then, but I think when I watched it,
that's a big point.
Wait, what? Say that again.
So when they wasn't in the dream, well, you can kick me into water when they're in India, or you can kick me off the edge when I'm chilling in Paris or someplace or whatever. But when I'm in the dream in the van, I'm allowed to do somersaults, but I don't feel it because I got a seatbelt around me, but I'm still moving around. No. Am I a dickhead?
It's the sensation of falling backwards, though. That's what he said.
Sorry,
so if you've got
all that motion.
No. It's specifically the motion of falling backwards. So that's not a plot hole to me.
Well, it is to me, because can I just conduct a survey mid-podcast? Would you rather, what do you think you're going to feel more of a sensation? Getting flipped about 25 times in a van or falling off a chair?
No, wait. What scene are you talking about where they're getting flipped by a van?
You know when the guy has the accident and the van falls off, it rolls.
Yeah.
It corkscrews basically.
And then it goes over the bridge.
And then it lands. Yeah.
But they're still sound asleep.
No, because Amari, when it goes over the bridge, that's when they actually that's when they actually wake up. No, he's talking about when he corkscrews. So Carl, when they first go into the dream, and the guys are chasing them.
Yeah.
They're chasing, and the Asian man's driving the van. He's trying to get away, and then he loses control, and the van corkscrews.
Okay.
So, and that is a valid point, because I did think the same thing. What was the other thing, Giles?
My thing was, so Cobb is an international fugitive. Yeah? Because he's committed such a heinous crime that he needed to flee the country, and he's going to be arrested upon re-entry.
This is my other
His heinous
issue.
crime was to allegedly kill his wife. No? That was his heinous crime, right?
Yeah. She set him up.
No, sorry, that's not my issue.
Heinous crime. Heinous crime. You've killed your wife when it could be proved as a suicide, and you felt the need to flee the country and leave your children.
She set him up though.
Huh?
Remember, she set up the room, the notes, everything.
Sorry,
from when you can set someone up. Go on, Amari.
No, because I remember the whole point of him wanting to do a final job to get to America was to see his kids. Can his kids not fly to another country? All right, come on, done. Let me go have my water.
But you see what? This is why, reviewing films.
But this is the rewatch.
Is always going to be fun.
Rewatch gave me, because I didn't clock it.
No, of course.
Yeah.
So my other issue was that man said he's doing all of these illegal dream snatching, implanting activities to see his kids because he can't go to America. But he can go everywhere else in the world. What? So his kids can't meet here?
And again, that is a fair point, but do you know what it is?
What point?
Do you know what it is?
That's the whole point of the Inception.
This is the way.
That's your motive.
But this is like the way I kind of, measure these loopholes and these little niggly things in films. If that niggly thing or the thing doesn't make sense, overpowers the actual film, or I can't get past it, Queen and Slim, then for me, you've gone way off. But when there is everything else, and there's when there's everything else and there's enough of everything else, and not only is there enough, but it's doing more than average, and to me, you just kind of go with it, because you're still taking away what you want to take, which is mind-blowing, or which is of such a high level. But those are fair points. I can't argue those. The car one, I thought the same thing rewatching, and also I didn't actually think about his kids. But again, where I wasn't focused on his kids per se, I was just more focused on obviously his relationship with Molly, learning what he did or what she did, I should say, and just kind of going with it. This isn't your typical espionage.
No, it's not.
It's not. But you should have a motive. When you're doing a criminal activity, there's a motive behind it. So the motive is looking real stupid for the reason you're doing it, because there's other ways around.
Obviously, it goes without saying, what a score from Hans Zimmer. What a score. Certain films where if the music was any different, you would walk out of that film with a completely different feeling. For me, this is one of his best scores. The music in this film, oh my goodness. I remember after watching it, I actually downloaded the soundtrack and just listened to it, just to take it in. And I mean, Hans Zimmer's he's from another planet anyway.
He's
we know that
anyway.
he's pay homage to him on our show intro. But this specific score, I think it was because of the theme of the film, the music had to kind of bring that to life even more so, and I think he done an excellent job. I think the two favorite pieces for me were the one during the James Gordon-Levitt fight scene, and you just keep the brass just keeps
that's my favorite. My favorite scene.
Mad. And then obviously that piece that gets used a lot, as Carl was always telling me on television. I think it's called Time, and it's at the end. You know that and it builds up. It builds up and builds up and builds up and builds. Emotional pieces of music. That score was something else. And yes, Giles, that was my favorite scene as well. Listen, I could talk about this film all day. The levels of that scene alone, like the way that it would have had to have been filmed and with everything else going on.
Have you seen how it's filmed?
Never watched.
I'll send you that on YouTube. Mad. It's like a rotating rig.
Yeah.
It's mad. Yeah.
So it's that time to ask the magical question. I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, but just for my own sordid satisfaction. Giles, Hall of Fame, Inception. Is it in or is it out?
It's in. It's despite me not being as excited by it on the second, my third watch, it's too stylish and it's too clever. The concept is too ahead of its time for it not to go in. And like you asked the question earlier on, name me another film that's the whole concept even comes close to this, and there isn't. I'm struggling to come up with one. So yeah, it's got to go straight in, man. It's got to go straight in.
Lovely. Kyle, Inception, TMRG Hall of Fame, in or out?
Yeah, I'm also gonna vote it in. I think again, this is gonna be obvious one. Very, very good film. Like you said, it is one of Nolan's best. I don't know if I'll rank it as his best, but definitely good. And as Giles was saying, just the idea of it, like the fact an idea is contagious and you can't let that go. That in itself is mad. Obviously, visually it was beautiful. Dialogue wise, it was good. Set pieces, yeah. It's 5 stars, so yeah, it has to go in.
Lovely. I love the way this is going. Amari, Inception, TMRG Hall of Fame, in or out?
It's a 5-star film. It's going in. I don't like. I do have. It has its plot points, which are dire, but it's going in. Like
dire,
I know, that's it. Dire. Yeah.
Sorry, man said he wants to see his kids at the beginning of the film. A man could have flew his kids from location A to location B. So what the hell is your motive? All right, cool. No one can answer that. All right, say no more. So, dire. But the ingenuity of the whole film, genius. So yes, it goes in.
Amazing. Well, it gives me great pleasure to
maybe
welcome.
He wanted to be in America, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers, mate.
Sorry, but I'm not having that. Because he could have flown his kids. But anyway.
And you know what as well? I just thought maybe he didn't want to run the risk of moving his kids.
But that's not what he said.
He wants to be home.
These words were, "I want to see my kids. They're my everything. Bringing everything to you. Can you not do that?"
Why are you going on so cold? but anyway, can I just at least officially welcome Inception into the TMRG Hall of Fame.
And that concludes episode 17 of Those Movie Review, guys. Join us on episode 18, where we'll be putting 2 films in the dock to see if they've committed crimes against filmmaking. Those 2 films will be Fatal Affair and The Way Back. Do remember to subscribe at all major streaming platforms. Those Movie Review, guys. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts and YouTube, to name a few. Share and get in touch across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TMRG Podcast. Those movie review guys, we out.